What is up? Happy hump day. Welcome to the Talking Place. And this is episode 11. I know that because I'm on top of it this week. I'm finally caught up. I don't have a backlog of episodes to edit, and I'm about a week behind. So it's all catching up to me. It's scary because now I'm going to be, recording and then editing right away. I had a good week or two where I was like, I had a nice little cushion, and now I messed myself up. I took a week and a half off, and now I'm gonna be, recording, editing, posting, all that stuff. So it's all good though. It's something that's gonna keep me busy, keep me doing stuff. And, I know what episode this is that I'm, when I record the intro. So that's always a plus. It's a good show this week. It's an awesome show. I was really looking forward to recording this one, and it did not disappoint. If you are not familiar with Elaine, she does co-host the Xbox Empire over at PSVG, Play Some Video Games Network, and it is an awesome Xbox centric show. So if you're looking for a podcast where they focus mainly on the Xbox side of things, then that's your go-to right there, I think. And just like always, I'm going to try and have everything linked in the show notes. So if you're interested to know where to find her on Twitter, where to find her podcast and all that stuff, it's all going to be there, along with whatever things we discussed that need linking. So go ahead and check it out if you're interested. And once again, I hope you appreciate this show the way that I did. Like I said, it was a great time talking with Elaine. It's been a few years in the making. We went over that in the show, and it's been something that, I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to sit down and chat with her and get more into who she was and the type of person she is. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. So I'm hoping that it's enjoyed, and I hope that it's appreciated. I think the topics that we were talking about were really personal, and at the same time, they were really important. And it's something that a lot of people should be listening to and understanding that it's not always sunshine and rainbows like we always like to show on social media and all that stuff and talk about on our shows. And I'm just really glad that I didn't want to focus on gaming or anything like that. I wanted to try and steer clear of all the normal, regular stuff that we're both known for talking about. And it was just a really good, deep conversation, and I really, really dug it. And I hope to have her on again. And yeah, she will be on again. She'll be on next week. But as far as these 2 weeks back to back, I hope to have her on again, in the future. One thing I will say though, that I wanted to mention about this show, just to correct myself, I kept on mentioning the today's positive hashtag that Elaine does on Twitter. It's not a hashtag, as I figured out. It's a thread. It's more of a thread. But I don't know why my mind thought it was a hashtag. I don't know, whatever. But I feel like I've been, it's like one of those things, like your neighbor calling you a different name that's not your name, but he's been doing it so long that you don't want to correct him, cause it'll be weird. I've been calling it a hashtag for a while. I think I tweeted at it before and everything, saying that, hey, I like your hashtag. And it's like, obviously not a hashtag, but whatever. Who cares? All right. I'm not always there. It's okay. I have my moments, and I guess that was one of them. So whatever. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. Hope you dig it, and I hope you stay safe. Peace out. It's been a long time in the making. wanting to do this, not only just like, sitting down talking with you and everything, because this is like, I'm gonna hype you up a little bit right now. This is like going back to, some other castle and all that stuff, So,
oh man, this is the warm fuzzies. This is I forget that people have been listening to my bullshit on the internet for a really long time.
Yeah, and it's been a while. It's been
a minute.
And you cannot just like, sweep it under the rug. It's
true.
You gotta live with it. I mean, you went, how long did you go? Like, just like talking bullshit about snacks and all this other stuff. It's
so long. Yeah. It's my favorite topic. You can still get me to do that at a moment's notice effortlessly.
Well, so. maybe that's what we'll do. I don't know.
Look, I'm just here to hang out and answer questions.
Yeah. That's what I want to try and do. I mean, it's I don't know how long you got. Typically I want to try and mute everything that's going on. Hold on.
Yeah, I was about to say, was that your Discord or my Discord?
I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, so let's see. Get it started. Would you care to introduce yourself?
I can. Sure. Now?
Yes. Perfect. I love it.
Wait.
It's like when, like I said before, this is like, a long time in the making. And, I've been trying to plan it out for a long time too. Like I told you, sometime last year, I was like, hey, let's do a show.
Yeah.
And it's like, now we're finally doing it. And it's like we were on the mic together one time before and we were complete idiots with coffee.
That was amazing. And you know it. So that was my greatest podcasting achievement. I'm going into acting next week. Lies. It's all lies.
Oh man, that was great. And for everybody who doesn't know about that I'll put the link to Delvin's show in the show notes here, because it was magical. It was
so stupid. I love it so much. So how do you want to roll? Do you have like an intro that you usually do? How would you like to play this game?
No, we just go with the flow. I'll intro, post, and do whatever like that. Just carry on with whatever. So if it'll make you feel better, welcome to the talking place, Elaine.
Oh hey. Hi. I'm Elaine.
And it's very, very nice to have you. I hope you enjoy your stay. I guess it's.
I'll try to make it not be like the person who comes in after me be like, who closed last night? Why is it such a nightmare in here? Why are all of the stools upside down and raccoons are taking over?
Oh, it sounds like it's happened before. I guess that's a story we could get into if you want. Yeah. So Elaine, I'm sure there's a lot of people that know you. And I'm sure there's quite a few that don't. If you are unaware, you have been in podcasting for a while. So if you want to go ahead and give a brief little thing about you, a little blurb, sure. I guess.
Would you like my professional, semi-professional, completely unprofessional resume on the internet? I'm Elaine, and I started a podcast back with a good friend of mine, Leah, back in 2008-09 called Some Other Castle. And before that, I was on a podcast called 360 Arcadians, and I want to say that was around 2006. So I've been doing this for a minute. I am incredibly geriatric at this point and carry a cane, and it just says, yo, have you heard me on the internet on the side? From Some Other Castle, I kind of did the traveling guest host gig. I was on the Mommy Gamers and the Married Gamers and all these other shows. Gamer Andy, when it was still a thing, was mixed in there. And then I landed myself by some weird fortuitous luck at the Play Some Video Games network of podcasts, where I now co-host the Xbox Empire show with my good friend Donnie weekly. But it's been a very weird roller coaster ride of internet time. Like, podcasting now is so easy. Like, any of us idiots can just put a microphone in front of our face, right? Like, yep. But in '06, it was a nightmare. Like putting a podcast out on the internet was so hard, and it was really still difficult in '08, '09 and beyond that too. And so now I'm just like, wow, these kids and their internet technology, so good now. Right?
So tell me about that, because I know back then, I want to say I was listening to podcasts back then. It was very, very few compared to now. Nowadays everybody and their grandmother has something going on, and it's like back then it was just starting up, and everything was fresh and new, like the Wild West. So how was it, like, putting something out, like what was the process from getting on the mic, recording, all the way up until like publishing? Like, what was it?
Boy, I'll use some other castle because I did that process kind of directly. With 360 Arcadian, someone else often edited and figured out. I don't even know how we put that out on the internet. I'm not even sure how people found that podcast, but a lot of people did. It was weird. That was Some Other Castle was a show I bought a mixer for, like a physical XLR microphone piece of technology, because Leah and I were doing that show in person, and we would sit on the floor with these mics, and I would have my Mac and the audio would feed in, and I would sit there and edit the audio like right after we recorded the show, and then send it to a WordPress site, I want to say. It was WordPress. Everybody uses WordPress. And we would sit there and like bounce episode titles off of each other for like 20 minutes until we found one that made us both laugh really hard. That was literally how we came up with episode titles. I have notebooks filled with like options, and we would just run down them out loud until we hit one that was like, no, that's the right one. That's the one. And then she would write show notes while I would edit the show, sitting on the floor, wrapped in blankets, usually like an old grandma. And then I would upload the audio. We would set up the WordPress thing and it would go. And we would just be like, I hope someone hears this because it's real stupid. And we drank that Shack Arizona drink. I have a lot of really... Did you watch The Simpsons?
Yeah.
You know the episode where Homer drinks a candle so he can eat the really hot pepper? And then he hallucinates a fox and a pyramid? That's the kind of feeling that I have looking back at that time. Like, I know that it happened, but I'm not sure it was completely real. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that episode sticks in my head often, and it's about stuff like this, where I'm just like, I know I did that. I'm not quite sure I wasn't in a altered state through most of it.
Well,
Who listened to this?
It sounds like the way you would hang out with somebody in high school. We have a 3-day weekend. You want to come over and sleep over and stuff. The kind of stuff that you would do just like hanging out with your friends,
Yes.
sleeping over at night.
This is the kind of bad ideas you have when like you snuck into your parents' liquor cabinet and tried to get some of the vodka out of the bottle and then filled it back up with water. This is not a thing that I did. Okay. I played by the rules. I'm being honest. I never did that. But this is the kind of stuff that the kids that I knew in high school would have totally done. Like, I don't know, we got these microphones. Let's just talk about snacks, bro. And then you put it up. But the difference is then I put it on the internet because I made terrible life choices. And a lot more people than I often forget how many people who I still interact with on like Twitter and Discord and stuff who listen to those shows and will like make throwback jokes. I'm like, oh no. Oh, sweet summer child. There's one guy, and he'll probably listen to this, Marcus, who I love to death. And every once in a while, he'll just like send me a message and it just transports me back in time. And I'm like, oh, stop. It's those. And it's great, but it's wild because that was 12 years ago, 13 years ago now.
Yeah, it's crazy. That was before kids, was it?
Yes. I was pregnant with my first during that when we had the podcast. And I distinctly remember tweeting, "Stop baby time," when I went to the hospital. I'm a grown up. I've since told him that story and he like doesn't have the musical reference. So he just rolls his eyes and walks away from me now. Cool. Great.
Well,
excellent.
I'm glad, like, it's still something for you, and I know that there's like other podcasters out there that are still going after so many years. Like I just heard Paris.
Yeah.
He's over there doing Kind of Funny now. Marsha she's still doing Mommy Gamers, and everything. She's been around forever too. It's like it's still a thing that's still hanging around and still worth doing. Still like, it's one of those things that you just, enjoy doing, and you're good at it. You're good at talking, socializing, and everything. So just keep at it, keep going. Who cares?
I can't stop now. I mean, I've been doing this as long as teenagers have been alive. Like, wow, well, there's no stopping now. Like, I think there's something to be said for doing the thing that you love, even if no one else is going to care.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I had a quote that I put in my Instagram stories, and it was just one of those ones that stuck out. And it said, if you enjoy it, it doesn't matter what other people think of it.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's kind of how I approach this. It's like, well, you don't have to like me. You know what I mean? I finally gotten to the point, it took me until my late 30s to be like, that's okay that I'm not for everyone. And this hobby isn't for everyone. I don't need to make it big to be in love with this. I just like doing it. It's fun. So I'm not going to stop, just because it's like, well, I don't make any money. I don't care. I get to crack jokes wise every week and someone laughs. What if one person laughs at my nonsense? I'm accomplished. And it's usually me, and that's fine. So.
Yeah, that's like, a good general advice for everything too, because it's something that I told myself with my blog when I had my food blog rolling, and it was going like, with everything updating on the regular and everything like that. I never made like crazy money on it. I would get contracts to do like, a promoted post on some item or something like that. Yeah. I would do those here and there. The most traction I got was I got a contract for 1 year to work with Wilton.
Nice.
I did like a whole bunch of promoted posts for them. They would send me a whole bunch of stuff, to work with and all that stuff. And they even sent me to Chicago once.
Nice.
It was like this whole paid trip. Like they were offering to pay for the plane and the hotel and all that stuff. And it was to do some big social event that they do all the time, every year or whatever. And it was like, a grand old time and everything. It was fun, but it got to the point where nothing was really like coming from it. There was no big payout. There was like no big, traction as far as traffic went or whatever. And it got to the point where, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm just like wasting time. Nobody's reading anything. Nobody's doing it. But then I realized all this time that I've been doing it, it's like basically a journal of mine that I've been keeping for myself, like, over the years. So that's what I turned the blog into. Like, I went away from food and I went more towards like, just family stuff and nerd stuff and things like that. So, I'm happy with what it is now. It's just like a personal thing that people could read if they want. And if they don't, then whatever, it's still there and it's still just something for me,
Yeah. When the act of generating the content is for an end goal, inevitably that will erode.
Yeah.
Right. You can't, it's not sustainable unless you get lucky sometimes, or you're very, very talented, or you just meet the right people. If the act of producing the content is because that is what brings you the joy or the satisfaction, then you can sustain that forever.
Yeah.
Or at least until that act no longer brings you joy. And it's like, I've had periods where personal relationships have changed. I've fallen out of love with generating content, or I wasn't generating the kind of content. Like I was trying to do it for an end point.
Yep.
And the reality is, like, I just want to get on a mic every week and have fun and show and feel my own joy. And if I'm doing that, I could do it forever.
Yep.
It could be about nonsense. I said this week on Empire, I didn't play any video games this week, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because I was tired and it happens, you're human, but like, it's not, I'm not there for just like the numbers, I'm there largely And the reason I love doing this so much is because I want the human connection from it.
Yeah.
I've met so many people from all over the world through doing this, and that's why I'm here. Like, that's the best stuff.
That's the way you got to look at it. You know, it's always the underneath, like under the hood kind of thing, to kind of way to think about it. You know, it's not about, you know, how many people you got following you or how many downloads you got. It's about just, you know, putting something out that's going to be something you're proud of. You know, and that's where I'm at too with this. It's like even with Future Monkeys, you know, we you know, we're always based out of our community, and, you know, for as long as I remember the community, it's been like a pretty close knit group of people.
Sure.
And it hasn't been like, you know, a lot of you know, influx of visitors coming in and joining and all that stuff. It's like a very slow trickle of new people that would come in, and it's all good. It's all fine. You know, it's nothing to complain about or whatever, because it's us. We have fun doing whatever we're doing, whatever we're talking about, and everything's good. So it's like when I put out a show and I go to publish the next one, and that's when I scroll through and I see, oh, let me see how many people downloaded the last show, and I see the number, and it's like, oh, all right, that's cool. And
sure. Yeah, exactly. Like, whatever.
You know? So,
I should note, if you want something out of, like, if making content is something you want an end goal from to have as a job, I have no like disparaging comments against that. Like, I think that's rad. I just think it's not, I have another career and one that I love. Like, I'm not looking for an out from that, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, this is an extra, not an end goal. But I'm not like looking down my nose at anybody who treats it that way. If you put in that hard work, like, more power to you and much respect. Yeah. I don't find joy in doing that personally.
I think that those people that do that with that end goal are the ones that wind up pushing themselves, and they're the ones that you know, get to that point where they're more successful with it. You know,
absolutely. It's all what you put in, and if you really want it, you know, bad enough, it's not universally true that you will get it if you just work very hard. Like I said before, in a lot of ways, you do need to get lucky and you do need to have some sort of natural talent on a microphone. Like, this isn't one of those things that everybody cannot be a streamer.
Yeah.
Everybody cannot be a podcaster. You need to either have or develop a certain talent for it. But if you put in the grind, like, you'll get something back from it that you might want. I just can't, you know, it stretches me so thin, and it takes, for me, when I convert it into the thing I'm relying on for income, that's when it becomes a bummer.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, I have to do this instead of I want to do this.
Yeah. And it turns into a job, and you don't want to.
I don't need more of those. I have so many. I'm so tired. I've got these kids. Very tired.
Yep. You gotta put them to bed early because you gotta record and pay the bills.
Yo, yeah, no, these kids would know though. Like, mom's little sign is up. We gotta go to bed. Like, my kids are a little older, and also they have the fear. So, they just go, like, they're reading right now. They will totally be lights out by 10 because they know if I find out they don't, they're in trouble. Mom's gonna be mad.
Yep, I gotta figure out that secret because mine they don't care.
They're feral. Well, I mean, mine are feral during the day, but once night hours come, the rules. I make few rules, hard and fast rules with my children. Don't be a jerk. It's definitely a rule. But bedtime is one thing I'm willing to fight over. You will sleep.
Yeah.
I won't fight over food, but I will fight over bedtime, y'all.
That is always a constant fight here, because it's one of those things where all day, it's pretty much completely devoted to everything about them, you know, and taking care of them and making sure that they're doing their school, they're getting fed, they're, you know, taken care of and not killing each other and all that stuff. And it's like nighttime comes and it's bedtime, and it's like, okay, it's time for bed because, you know, mommy and daddy need to relax, and they need to, you know, meditate and try and be one with the earth again and be adults.
Yep.
And it's like they could spend the entire day. The kids could spend the entire day off doing whatever they're doing in their rooms, playing games, talking to each other, like totally ignoring us, but come nighttime they want to be family focused.
Yeah,
they want to watch movies and cuddle, and it's like, no, go to bed.
This is too real. Yeah. Mine don't try it at bedtime because they know I will stay. There is no negotiation past 10 p.m. I become the bedtime dictator. I don't even care. Fight me. I pay for this house. But it's when I sit down on the weekends, like they're doing their own thing. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, cool, kids are doing their thing. I go to like pick up a video game controller. Suddenly everybody's downstairs in the basement wanting to know what I'm doing. I'm like, you didn't give a crap what I was doing 10 minutes ago. Children are fun and everyone should have them. That's a lie. It can be joyous and fun, but just they're very tiring. Oh man. There's not a lot of alone time in my house, I'm gonna tell you. So.
Yep. Well, I don't know, the pandemic is not making anything easier. It's like we had the good 6-7 hours a day to clean up and to calm down and all that, and now that's all gone, and it's been gone. My house has not been cleaned since March of last year, and it's just been absolutely ridiculous. It's just like every day is carnage and chaos, and it's horrible.
But we love our children so much.
Yes, we do.
We do. It's true. Even though they make us, I'm going gray. Like my gray hair is like really starting to come in. Oh, buddy, dear second child, I love you. Please stop. Love, mom. So.
Yeah, it's just craziness everywhere. But let me see. You mentioned you were talking about Empire and how you you haven't played any games this week. I think I saw a tweet of yours or something that you mentioned like you're just not into games right now. Like there was nothing like really tickling your fancy. So
the decision fatigue tweet. I stand by that tweet. I tweeted something to the effect, and I'm not going to pull up my own Twitter because I'm not that person. I tweeted something to the effect that like the pandemic has like exacerbated this problem. I have too many choices in front of me and I don't want to make any more decisions. Like I spend every day making decisions. What everybody's going to eat, what I'm going to work on at work, like chasing down work for work, cleaning the house or not cleaning the house. How am I going to exercise today? What am I going to eat? And I get to the end of the day and I'm like, I don't want to play a video game because there's too many choices. Literal, real first world ass problem, right? And my brain is exhausted. I was telling my husband this and my kids, and I was like, even booting up the video game, now there's too many choices of what to do in the video game. I just want someone to tell me what to do, right? So I actually have done this thing where I'm just like, I'm going to put on an audiobook, which is not something I used to enjoy, turn out all my lights and lay in bed and listen to someone tell me a story.
There you go.
Like I've taken the agency out of my evenings, and I'm looping back around to playing games. Like I installed Hitman 3 and I'm going to play the video games. Okay. 100% going to throw bananas at unsuspecting NPCs' heads. Don't worry. But the last couple of months, the last year has created this vortex of like exhaustion and mental overload, right? But when I get that way, I just want someone else to tell me what we're eating for dinner and someone to read me a story in the dark. Like I want to be a little kid again, you know? So I've created that. Like my husband finally picked up on it because I said it over the weekend. I went on this whole diatribe, and yesterday I was like, oh, I don't know what we're going to eat for dinner. He's like, we're ordering pizza. That's it. And I just looked at him. He's like, I heard you. You know, I get it. I do. I understand. And I laid in bed and listened to a book after eating pizza, and it was really nice.
Yeah.
So
Randy's so sweet.
My poor husband. I told him that was his new nickname. He's like, I don't understand. I'm like, you'll never understand. His name is Don, but it's Randy now. I'm gonna get a tattoo of the name Randy on my back shoulder. Just like, I mean, no one will know the inside joke except like me and 4 people.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So I asked that. I asked it because, it's something that a lot of people go through. And I'm no stranger to it too, because there's been plenty of times where it's like there is no game created would make me want to pick up a controller to touch anything,
Yes.
and it's happened to me more often than not. Like it's been like that actually, like towards the end of last gen. It was one of those things where I think it was the end of the year last year, where Pokemon came out, and I went like crazy with that. And then right after I got into Animal Crossing, and it's like Animal Crossing and Pokemon were the only two games that I like completed in 2020, you know. That's how bad it got.
I get into this. This happens to me in cycles, right? This is not pandemic specific.
Exactly.
I think what you're saying is 100% the same way that I am, where I just get to a point where I'm just like, I don't wanna, and I don't have a really good reason why. I just don't wanna, and I try to go with that vibe because it's my brain telling me it needs something different right now, right? But when I get like that, I tend to go towards, if I am going to play a game, to go towards comfort food. And for me, that's stuff like Tetris. Like I will always play Tetris. My brain actually shuts off when I play Tetris 99, and I totally zone out and just play Tetris, and I'm not overthinking everything for 15 minutes. That's lovely. That's so good. The other one is like Doom. It's so silly. When the pandemic got really bad in the very beginning, and I was kind of depressed and super anxious, I started a playthrough of original ass Doom forward. And I went through every Doom right up until Eternal came out, and then I played that one, and it was very weirdly comforting to murder space demons from hell. I have no explanation for why this happens. I think because Doom has been a game for me, especially original Doom, that like has always come forward with me, you know. I love Doom so much, unapologetically so. Doom and Tetris, that's my whole brain. Little blocks and angry hell demons.
I like how one is a very, very calming puzzle game, and then the other one is fighting demons.
I feel like it's really captures my personality. Like it grabs onto both. Like I can be that scary person, but normally I'm very warm and fuzzy. So it's like, oh, family friendly, Elaine. And then there's like, oh, you've done made her mad, you know? It's like the two halves of Elaine. It makes me happy that it like translates into video games in my comfort food. But there you are.
Yep, I am here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
kid got up and is walking around.
I had finished the thought, so we can just pick up right from there.
All right, so Doom, Tetris.
Doom, Tetris, the two parts of me.
So, I mean, fatigue would be the best way to describe it, I guess. It's hard to say, like, you know, when it's happening, like it feels bad in a way, because, you know, you feel like you're into this hobby and you're crazy invested in it, you know.
Yes.
And you're here like, okay, I want nothing to do with it now. And it's like, you know, you turn around and you start looking for other stuff to do and things like that. And it's like you would have time to do stuff, and you just like, you know, pick up other things or whatever. Like me, for example, with me, it's like whenever I get in that rut where there's no gaming going on, that's where I'm focusing more on my blog or you know, reading more, like something that I always wish I would do more, but I just feel like I don't have time to do, you know. So it's always up in the air, like, you know, when the rut is going to stop or whatever, what's going to make me come out of it.
It's funny because I did just described it to my husband as like feeling guilty about not playing games. Because I'm like, I have all these games and I love games, and I kind of feel weird that I'm not playing them. And he's like, yeah, but it's okay that like you bounce off for a little while. He's like, you've also churned through 3 books and 2 TV series in the last couple of months. And I'm like, yeah, I do that. I will read a lot of books, or I will sink into TV that I may not have given a chance, or rewatch something that has already made me cry. Like those are things I don't know why. I have no good explanation for you. Or at least I've done that at least twice in the last 6 months, where I'm like, I just feel like I need to cry, so we're gonna put this on. I'm gonna cry today. And my husband's like, why though? And I'm like, I can't explain why I'm like this. Part of it is definitely like an anxiety, depression, brain thing, where sometimes that's how it manifests. And like, I don't want to do this thing, so I'm gonna do this thing instead. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know how my brain works. I'm just in there with it. Like, you know?
So there's been like this whole year, it's just been like really easy to fall into a lot of holes, like for a lot of people. And it's one of those things that it's tiptoed around a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
I know with you, in particular, like, you know, I'm back to your tweets, back to your Twitters, because that's like where I get the most interaction with you, like, you know, on Twitter. So
I think that's the place that I give the most too.
yeah.
I'm willing to be the most me on Twitter, so it's not accidental. It's funny because I only ever know how much it impacts people when they tell me, though, because not everybody interacts with tweets the same way I do. I like tweets that I identify with, right? Not everybody does that. Some people just see it and go, and then keep scrolling. So in moments like this, I'm like, oh, I get to have the moment where I'm like, oh, some people do hear this nonsense I put on the internet.
People are actually reading that? What?
People are reading that? I'm not going to stop, but you folks should probably rethink your life. No, I'm just kidding. My Twitter is delightful.
So for like in particular, I'm talking about today's positive. Your little hashtag you got going on. So what is it like? What started that? Like, what is it that made you wanna start keeping a tally on what's the positive for today?
It's funny. I started that back. I just looked at it. It was late August, and I had started going to therapy late spring. I kind of had been seeing a therapist for a while. No shame in my game. Like, it's good. I highly recommend it for everybody who can afford it. And everybody should be able to. That's the way it should be. It is not. But she would constantly remind me that for every bad, there is probably a good that I am shrugging off. You know what I mean? And there were more eloquent words and therapist words that she used for this. But this idea that, like, even on your worst day, there's probably one thing if you lay down in bed every night that you can think of that was good, even if it's not a big thing. And I heard her when she said that, and I said, well, what if I just pinned a tweet and threaded one thing every day? And the reason I put it on Twitter is because when I would go find the tweet to thread it, I would be forced sometimes to scroll through a handful of the tweets of the moments, and I would be forced to see them. So when I had a really bad day, I would click the top of the thread and just scroll and stop wherever I stopped and read that tweet and go, oh yeah, okay. And like, it was grounding for me. It reminded me that my brain was playing tricks. My anxiety brain was playing tricks on me. Not everybody hates me. Not everything is terrible. I'm going to be okay. I am okay. And so I figured, well, if I put one nonsense thing in this tweet stream a day, one, it helps me, and maybe, just maybe, one other person will see it and go, it is really nice when it rains and I can sit and listen to it. Oh, it does feel really good to have that like cup of coffee and take that first sip, and it's so good even if everything's on fire around me, right? And I was like, if it helps even like one person and it helps me, I consider it a win, you know? So I usually tweet those laying in bed at night at the end of the day. And some days I have to lay there for 30 minutes to find something because it's been a day. And those things are usually small, but they like ground my feet. You know what I mean? And they force me to look at my life and say, like, not everything about it is terrible. If you can find one thing a day, then that gives you a reason to keep going forward, you know? And it was important and it was helpful, especially when things seemed very dark for months.
Yes, exactly.
For a wide variety of reasons in this country. And it was like, I don't know, there's something about that thread, and I've scrolled back through it. It's pinned in my Twitter. And I just go, man, so you can see the days where I had to stretch. You know what I mean? You can see them in what the tweet was. And I'm like, I remember that day being hard. And but I read back, I'm like, I don't remember what was hard about that day. I do remember that positive. That's lovely. It gives perspective on my dark days, because they're not, a lot of my dark days are my brain playing tricks on me. I mean, genuinely bad things have happened over the course of this pandemic to me, but the just generic depression, anxiety days, that are just dark for no real reason. It's my brain feeding me. And when I scroll back through and I look at the tweets, I'm like, I don't remember anything about why that day was hard, but I do remember that. Yeah. And that's very centering and grounding. And I just, now I can't stop. It feels good, So
yeah, it's very therapeutic, and it's something that it stands out. Like you said, this past year it's been a doozy, and it's been rough on a lot of people, and for many reasons beyond what anybody could think and imagine. So being able to go through Twitter and you see all these political tweets, you see all this stuff about racism and all this stuff about everything else that's horrible going on in the world, and then you see more positive things going sprinkled and peppered throughout your timeline or whatever. And it's like, that's the stuff that stands out, because it's what you need. It's what people need. And so it's like, when you hashtag it, today's positive, that's like when I'm scrolling through Twitter and going through, trying to catch up throughout the whole day. If I see that, those are the ones that I like stop and check out, because I know that that's going to be something positive that, it's needed for a lot of people, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that a lot of people should do. A lot of people should try and focus on something more positive throughout their day. And, it's one of those things that people will probably be better off. I know it's something that I probably need to be doing, because, the days here, like I've said, are crazy, all from minute to waking up to going to bed. It's just, off the wall all the time. So
yeah, it never stops. And like, that's why, generally speaking, there are a couple of exceptions. Like if something really good happens and I don't want to forget, sometimes I'll do it in the middle of the day. Or if I forget the day before, I will loop back and say, oh no, yesterday was good because of this. But I often, like I said, lay in bed. And I know I've read a couple of books, and one of the books, the woman who wrote it had a journal, a paper journal. There's no reason it has to be on Twitter. I put it on Twitter because I don't know, I guess that's the place I felt like, oh, I'm in bed with my phone. Like, this is what I'll do, But she would just write she would lay in bed with her journal and write the one thing. She would date it and write the one thing. She did that for years. And she said, like, there were days where I was just like tear-soaked journal trying to think of anything to put down. And she, her story is in a lot of ways much harder than what even I've been through this year. But she's like, I always did it because those are the things I wanted to remember, not the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And while a lot of the negative stuff does shape who we are too, and it's not to be forgotten, sometimes wallow in the bad so far and so deep that we can't see the joy, even when it's little. So I force myself some days, and it's not always like easy. I'm not going to sit here and say that means I'm fine, but like I said, it connects me back to the things that make me happy. And I think that that's important.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that people see it and think, yeah, man, that's good stuff. It always feels good. And I love seeing people's responses, like when they respond to something because it resonated. Like, that always makes me feel good. I'm like, oh, I found a way to connect with you. Mm-hmm. A year when so much of our connection has been sucked away. Like, just because it's nice to have that little moment, like that little zing of connection with someone. It's good. It's good stuff. So
yeah, that's the way it's been all year. It's like there's no there was a long time that everybody was just on their own. Like whoever was in their house, and that was it. And it's one of those things that slowly and steadily, it's, creeping back to somewhat normal, but it's like, for a lot of people, it's still there, and it's still going on, still, being distant from everybody. So it's like that connection with other people, even if it's, through Twitter or through Discord or whatever, or listening to a podcast or something, it's, everybody needs it. They need the connection to something, to somebody, to remind them about, you know, the outside world, and remind them about, you know, happy things that are going on, or, you know, something to be happy about. And it's a good thing that you're doing with your little hashtag.
I'm glad that people feel like that, you know, and that it's had some sort of an impact. It's had an impact on me, you know. It is, like I said, it's delightful to scroll through my own moments and go, you know what, for all of the bad, there has been some light. And I'm grateful for those, like, I'm glad I put it somewhere and I didn't stop.
Yep.
There were times when I was just like, I don't have one today. I'm not going to do it. And I said, well, you're stubborn and you don't break a streak, kid. So I know my own stubbornness. When I see like a streak like that, I'm like, can't break the streak. Yep. And it's like I play games against my own brain. You know what I mean? Because I know exactly who I am. It's taken me a long time to figure it out. So I know exactly how to incentivize my brain to stick with something. And that's how I did it. So.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me, you know. Like I said about my blog, it's one of those things where like I would catch myself like going to go check it out to either look for something specific, like a recipe or something, or if I have to go update something, or if I, you know, go in there to post something, like, that is very few and far between. It's like one of those things that I'll catch myself going back and forth between old posts and seeing things that I've written like from like years and years ago, and it's like, it's good to see like that kind of stuff, because it's not like I'm using that to write negative things all the time. You know, it's always been positive things, and it's always been good things, you know, and it's always been good memories and good experiences and stuff like that. So it's a good thing to go back for me and my family to see things written down there.
I like a positive reminder. And I should note, like, I don't want this to seem like the only thing I'm willing to put out in the world is my good moments. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to be clear that, how do I want to say this? There is such a thing as like toxic positivity, and like good vibes only, and only, you know what I mean? And I don't believe in that. I believe that putting out your hard times is just as important, right?
Yeah.
But I want, I'm trying to find the right words. I want to be very clear that I will tweet about a bad day. We'll be very honest about the dualities of mental health and how I feel. So I don't only want it to seem like I only want to put the good vibes out. Yeah. You know, I want to be clear about that.
Because I think there's a lot of people that would, like, even myself included, they would not mention anything about the bad days, anything about negative going on or whatever. And I do it like more for, like, I guess for me, you know, because I don't like
venting.
Yeah, because I don't like to put out like the negative out there, because I'd rather the negative just like stay behind and like not come back and not be thought of. And I want it to pass. I want it to go forward to, you know, something more positive. So I don't like dwelling on the bad stuff. But I don't
think that's a bad way to be. I think that I get it. Do you know what I mean? And for a lot of people, it's a very hard thing to talk about. Like, talking about joy is easy. Talking about struggle is not.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's scary. You're opening a window and a door, and there's so many people who take advantage of those windows and doors and throw it in your face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've all gotten into an argument with a loved one that's thrown something back like that in our face because it got heated, and they did. But no, even if it doesn't seem like it, even if sometimes I'm the same way. I don't want to put my negative out, because maybe my negative or what I'm struggling with isn't only my story to tell.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm having a disagreement with a person or a friend, or I'm not putting that on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, I have a therapist for that, and I do have those conversations, and I do have hard conversations with my husband sometimes where we don't agree and we have to work through things. And I don't want to, those are unfair things for me to talk about in my public Twitter. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't always put them out there. People should know I struggle like everybody else. And I've worked very hard and continue to work very hard to battle those demons and to understand how I work and what's important and how I need to have those conversations. So I'm not a good vibes only person. I'm a feel your feelings as they stand person.
Yep.
It can be good, bad, sad, joy. Feel them, because if you ignore them, nothing good comes of it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
That's where
good
the problems come. That's where all the darkness feeds into the darkness, and it just gets darker and darker and deeper, and then it's a hole that you just can't climb out of.
It's true. And having little kids, I feel a very strong responsibility to teach my children, like, you need to feel your feelings. You need to learn to put words to them sometimes, because you have to. Because if you stomp them down and swallow them, become rage.
Yep.
And it gets real nasty. And that rage is usually pointed at yourself or someone else, but usually it's partially to do with you. So, like, I'm a very big supporter of therapy and hard conversations, and I'm a very big supporter of, like, feel the feelings you are being dealt in that moment. Don't push them aside. You got to feel them, because they're just going to come back and they're just going to be worse the next time. There is no ignoring. So,
yeah, I'm not good. I'm not good with anger. I'm not good with emotions. I'm horrible, because it's like I'm the type to get like mad and furious and absolute like rage about something like 5 minutes after it happens. Like when it's too late to react to it. I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. Like if we're out and something happens, something stupid in a parking lot or whatever, and you know it's a situation where somebody is being absolutely ridiculous, like 5-10 minutes later, that's when it hits me, and that's where I'm like, that son of a, like, you know, really like
at least you didn't start to fight in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's where it's could be a positive, because I avoid a lot of things by reacting so late, by, like, you know, processing it late and everything, like, you know, dwelling on it and thinking more, letting it fester, you know. But, you know, at the same time, it's like the same thing happens with family drama, family struggles and things like that.
Sure.
Like, things would happen, and then it won't be until like later where it'll process, and it'll be like playing over and over in my head, and it's like, I should have said this, I should have done that, and
I do that.
You know,
I do that.
You know,
I unpack after, and that is where writing things down has started to help.
Yeah.
For me. And this is all deeply personal. Like, I'm telling my story and you're telling yours, but everybody listening to this, like, everyone has a coping mechanism, right? Mine is definitely to write down those thoughts. And it becomes this thing where it's funny, because I've read back through some of those journal entries, and like initially it's all just like short sentences, feelings, very like to the point. And as I process and like cope and calm down, it becomes like flowy, almost overly verbose language, like you would read in a book, because that's how I'm like, I need to better words for these feelings. I dig for them, but I can't do that until I'm calm. So it's very difficult. Like, I don't necessarily go to rage. I tend to be hurt and sad. Those are the emotions that tend to stick with me, and they're hard to let go of. So, because it cascades, right? Like, oh, but this hurt me, and then that must have been based on this thing that happened, you know? It's terrible. I found that writing, for me, is the thing that puts it on the paper and then lets me, like, unpack and stretch it out. And by the time I'm done, I'm tired. I've said, okay, I'm closing the book. I'm letting it go. It's done now. I have to walk away. I have to let it go. So.
Yeah. Writing for me is the best way to express things like that. Well, like situations that I just said, like with family in particular, like, you know, where something would happen between me and my parents, like, has happened so many times. And it's like, I would be quiet about it, and like, it'll process, and I would get beyond like upset about it. but I can't say anything. I can't call and I can't text and I can't do whatever. Like the best way to throw everything out and to like get every single thought out the way I want it would be like an email or something, you know?
Yes.
Something
Yes.
where I could sit there and I could, you know, compose it and make sure it's, you know, stating everything the way I want it and everything like that. And then I'll be able to get it off my chest like that.
I routinely, and it's funny because my therapist was one of those people who was like, I'm going to tell you the thing that every therapist tells everyone because it's tried and true. Write the letter you're not going to send.
Yeah.
Put it on a piece of paper, write it down, process it, and then just burn it after. It's okay. It's not intended for sending. It's intended for you to cope. And I do that. I took that to heart. When you finally start listening to the professional who tells you how to handle your crap, it really works. Just like, because you could fight that and be like, that's not going to help me. But then you do it and you're like, well, it would be good. I mean, I pay this nice woman because she's an expert. I should probably start trusting her expertise, right? Like, it's so ridiculous. I'm an engineer. We pay people to do the things we're not good at. So like, I do that at work fine, but I can't do that with my mental health. So I totally do that. I totally write letters I don't intend to send. That's how I process. I should really listen to her like sooner. I'm so stubborn, and she's just like, ugh, we could do this for 2 weeks, or you could just do what I say now. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. She's not wrong, you know. Like,
and you go tell her, you know what, you should get paid for.
She loves when I come back and tell her, yeah, okay, so it worked, and she just like looks at me, and I'm like, I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say you told me so. I understand that. I'm paying you to mock me now. This is ridiculous. A very good working relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
You need that in your life.
So with all this talk of you know, mental health and everything like that, I made the connection. I don't know when I made the connection. I forgot exactly when, but I know back then in your golden days of podcasting, you used to be very vocal about you know, the things that you would be drinking and stuff like that, like many people do. And these days you are very vocal about not partaking in drinking and stuff like that. So does that go hand in hand with everything that we already talked about now? Is that something that connects with that?
Yeah, it does. So I quit drinking alcohol. Right, it's 2021, so it would have been October of 2016.
Right.
So it's been a little over 4 years now. Boy, it's a really long time.
That's good.
How did that happen? The first year sucks, but after that, I did it because I'll be very frank. I've been an anxiety sufferer. I diagnosed general anxiety disorder sufferer for a very long time, and I struggled with it off and on. And I would often, as many people do, use alcohol as a way to shut off my brain or dull the loudness of it, right? And for a lot of people, everybody does this. Most people who drink. I had a bad day. I need a drink, right? I'm not passing any judgment. Believe me. It's not my place. But the problem was that I teetered at a precipice of it being a problem. It was like the way I've described it to people who I love deeply is I was standing on the edge of a cliff. It would take one strong breeze in either to push me off. And then it would ruin my life, probably. And so I stepped back aggressively, and I chose. And I looked at my life and I said, I remember distinctly the moment I woke up on a Tuesday morning with a hangover so bad I had to call out of work. And I said, I have 2 kids. And it's Tuesday. What could be so wrong on a Monday that I could have put myself in this position? You know? And I said, I think it's probably time to unpack that instead of avoid it. I just said before, you need to feel your feelings and you need to address them. And you can't just pack them away and hope they go away. And it took me years to take my own advice, right? Years. And I finally took that advice. I said, I'm going to step back and I'm going to decide I'm not going to drink anymore. And I'm going to figure out gap here. The problem here. And it took me a really long time after that. I mean, it's 4 years and I'm finally comfortable in my own skin, right? But it's funny because I remember how like bummed I was about it at the time. I was like ashamed of myself. I had put myself in that position. And it took me 4 days to tell my husband. I love this man. And he and I have been together now for over 20 years. I trust him more than any other human being. And it took me 4 days. And it was Friday morning right before I went to work. And I pulled open the back door. He was out there with the dog. And I said, I quit drinking. Not ready to talk about it yet. And then I got in my truck and drove to the train station to go to work and cried the whole way there because I felt ashamed of myself. You know, I felt awful about it.
But like you felt awful because it's a step that you had to take. Is that?
Yeah, I felt awful that I put myself in that position.
Yeah,
that
you were there having to
yes.
admit that you did that.
It's the very definition of having to say you have a problem.
Yeah.
And it being scary and it not feeling good, even to someone you love and trust more than anyone else. Right. And it was looking back, I can 100% say that for me, it was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
I am a different person because of that step. And it didn't manifest itself until years later. But if I hadn't done that then, wouldn't have made the other choices I've made in the last 4 years. There is no way. I would never have gone to therapy. I've just said, I'm fine. That's what bourbon's for, or whatever, you know? Everybody has problems. That's why Americans drink, right? Like, or anybody, really, it's not exclusive to Americans. But I would have made an excuse to avoid confronting that stuff, and I would have just put a wet blanket over those feelings and ignored them.
Yep.
And oh man, it still took me years to get comfortable enough to say I need help with this stuff from a professional.
Yeah.
But at least I didn't have this like alcohol soaked view of the world anymore. You know? It's something that I am rarely afforded the opportunity to be very candid about, but I'm always kind of grateful when I am, because it's like, look, dude, I had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I fixed it. It sucked. It wasn't easy. The first 6 months were so hard, and you start to realize how steeped in alcohol the culture of like socialization is.
Yep.
Oh, we're going out for a drink. Oh, what do you want to drink? Oh, what are you going to drink with dinner? Oh, there's a wedding and everybody's expecting. Why aren't you drinking? It's weird when you don't drink to people.
Oh yeah. You're preaching to the choir right now with that.
And people get really uncomfortable and combative about it in certain situations. So like, it's like you're mirroring your issues onto me. Like, you're mad at me for not drinking, but what does that say about what you're battling with? You know, is it about me or is it about you? You know, and
you might as well be an alien, like not even human. And
people get weird. I stopped getting invited to go out to lunch sometimes. Because people would drink at lunch sometimes. You know, it's one of those cultures.
Yeah,
consulting is just one of those cultures. I get invited to after work happy hours anymore. Even knowing I would say no, they used to at least invite me. They stopped inviting me. Weddings, people were weird. People got real weird about it. And it took me a full calendar year to honestly answer the question when someone would offer me a drink, instead of saying, no, thanks, I'm fine, to just say, no, thanks, I don't drink.
Yeah.
Then another 6 months to find when people said, oh, but why? For me to say, 'cause I don't, instead of trying to make up an excuse like, oh, I don't feel good, or 18 months to get my swagger.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, man, it was a hell of a ride. And my husband, to his credit, quit drinking for the full first year to me. And I said to him, when I realized it 4 months in, you don't have to do that. This is my hill to climb. Like, I need to. And he's like, no. He's like, I know that. I'm doing it because I want to. And then I cried, because that's usually how I respond to people being kind to me. I cry a lot. He now drinks. He'll have a glass of wine with dinner occasionally, or a bourbon every once in a while. But like, it's so funny. Like, he felt like obligated to me. And I'm like, you don't have to. And he's like, I know. You know? Will you let me help you? God. It's the social implications of quitting drinking are wild.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It is, like you said, it's something that it's ingrained in culture now, like socializing, socializing is like, it's almost centered around, you know, having some sort of drink in your hand. And it's something that that I learned like at a very young age, that it's one of those things that people just expect you to do, you know?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
you know, it's this is coming from a Puerto Rican who does not drink, and it's
Yeah.
like
Italian American. I mean, it's
Yeah.
built in to dinner.
Exactly,
Like it's
you know?
it's my mom and dad are not big drinkers, but my grandfather was a drunk.
Mhm.
So, and I say that like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not being like, you know, exaggerating a point.
Yeah.
He was an alcoholic. It
Mhm.
killed him. You know? So I feel you.
Yeah.
And so it becomes built into like my first Thanksgiving. I quit drinking about a month before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
My family did not handle that well. Like me just saying no to a glass of wine, are you sick? And I wasn't ready to talk
Oh,
about it
man.
yet.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
that's like real fresh, like fresh wound trying to take care of it, and they're trying to douse it with alcohol.
I was just not ready, and I wasn't ready to talk about it at Christmas, and I wasn't ready to talk about it at New Year's. I wasn't ready to talk about it for like a year. So yeah, I feel you.
It's a high mountain to climb for sure. It's one of those things like you said, it's a personal battle that you know you took on, and you were meeting it full force, you know. And you know, pretty much if somebody's trying to, like, you know, steer you off the course or whatever, you know, it's one of those things that it's hard to focus on, because the thing that helped you focus is what you're trying to stop.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
like the go-to of, I bet you at least half of the people listening to this have had a day where they're like, I just want a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Right? It's just built in. And I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. There's
nothing wrong with it.
It's just that I can't moderate.
Yeah.
I couldn't just have a glass of wine. And I know figuring that out about myself is what enabled me to be like, okay, I figured out what I need to do now. And it still sucked.
Mhm.
But so socially, like, wound into the fabric of just like I remember people being like, oh, you want to go grab a beer and talk about it? I'm like, I'll grab a cup of coffee. You know, like, or I'll order a club soda at a bar.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I'll go out with people now because I'm comfortable with it. Only time I won't go out with people is if I know that they'll get hammered and expect me to pick them up like that.
Yeah.
I don't need that, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But I'll go out and tip a bartender $5 on a club soda. I don't care. I know who I am now, you know? But
Mhm.
it's so difficult to unwind. Like I didn't necessarily lose friends, but I had to relearn how to have them.
Yeah.
And how to interact with them. And I don't think I needed to have that struggle to figure it out, but whoo boy, was it a rough, like, first year, maybe year and a half was really very challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things for me that I came up with it. You know, it's because I've never been drunk before. Like, I've never, like, the most I've had is probably like 2 drinks, you know, in one night, maybe. And
King of moderation. See, you know how to moderate.
but it's like, it's one of those things where I don't like it. Like, I don't like the idea of not having control of myself, you know? Like, that's never been like a thought, like, oh, I want to do that, you know? And I think it came from growing up with the friends that I had, like in high school, junior high school, and high school, actually from grade school. From grade school, I had the same friends all the way through high school. And, you know, we grew up all liking the same stuff and doing all the same things, hanging out, playing sports, you know, doing things that, you know, we used to do back in the 80s and 90s that, you know, you wouldn't let your kids do now, like go out to the park on their own and
in the dark.
Yeah.
Who does that now? There are murderers out there, children. Ride your bike to where? That's a dangerous road.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
It was so different for us. It was so different for us.
But it's like back then, all my friends, like, we went from hanging out and playing sports and watching cartoons and things like that to them getting into drugs and getting into drinking, and it's like it got to the point where the only fun that they had was if they were either high or drunk. And for me, it's like I was never about that. Like, I was never the type to think like that. Like, for me, the fun came from having fun, like from doing whatever it is that we were doing, so it's like I was always the one that was having to watch out for them, or the one that had to make sure that they weren't being stupid to the point where they were gonna get themselves shot or stabbed, by somebody else, or things like that. So it's like I grew up with that mentality of like, okay, I see what this does to people. I don't want anything to do with it. I
think if I hadn't had the grandfather who drank himself to death, I might not have stepped back off the cliff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that was the moment when I thought, do I want to end up like that?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be that person. The answer is no. He was a bigot, and an asshole. There's no nice way to say that. Mm-hmm. But that was the thing in the back of my head. Like, I had friends who drank and got themselves into... Most of my friends were like pretty chill and kind of nerdy, and we got ourselves into trouble, but it wasn't bad trouble. But my grandfather was the voice in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Don't end up like that. You have a choice. Now is your choice. Because in a couple of more, a month, 2 months, a year maybe, you will have already made it, and it will be almost impossible to pull it back.
Yeah.
So, feel you, I do, and you made your personality is such too that I think that it won out beforehand, and that's a good thing. Believe me.
For what you mean, for what it was.
Desire to stay in control is what has kept you from being in the position that I found myself in. That's a good thing, because it allowed you to moderate like a grown up. You know what I mean? Like a in control adult. It's more the way to say
I feel like if I didn't witness like the way things were, like for my friends, from being that point of view, if I didn't see it from there, like it probably maybe would have been different, because drinking is like it's in my blood, basically, with my father's side and everything. It's like, he drinks stuff like it's water, and, sometimes it catches up to him, and it's not good. And, he would stop for a while, but then he'd pick it back up. And, it's like, I don't think he has a problem, but, maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe it's something that I'm not seeing, or whatever. But, the point is, it's like, it's there in me to like, I feel like it's something that could be woken up if I had poked it enough, Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. It lives in my genetics too, in a lot of ways, like my grandfather wasn't the only one. Like, my other grandfather was definitely like in the military, and I know my mom, the way my mom tells it, he was not alive when I was born. He drank a whole lot too.
Yeah.
And it's funny, this kind of thing, it's a very stark reminder, because I can't tell you how many people, when I said, oh no, I quit drinking, they said, oh, I didn't think you needed to, you seemed fine. Yeah. It's like, that is a very stark reminder that everybody is struggling with something, even when you cannot see it. Yeah. The person who seems fine, there's something. Everyone has something. Because I cannot tell you how many people said to me, why? You seem to handle it fine. You never seemed out of control. You never seem, and I'm like, well, you're not rattling around inside my head. So it's easy to say that, because I presented an air of that, right? So that was the everyone struggles with something. This is my greatest example of that. I'm like, you probably wouldn't have guessed. A lot of people probably wouldn't have guessed. Some people who knew me well enough might have. But I mean, but it is the biggest thing I have heard. Like, I didn't think, well, everybody has struggles, and they don't always get to see them. So remember that and treat people with the kindness, you know?
Yep, that is true, you know, and it's something that a lot of people they take for granted. They think you know, they think whatever's going on is, it's like that's the only thing that's going on, and there's nobody else with problems, or, you know, bigger problems, or anything like that. And it's not a good mentality to keep, you know, for anything in general. And, you know, sometimes you're reminded of it a lot, and, you know, sometimes you need to be slapped in the face with it. And, you know, it's just something that you got to learn, you know, you got to figure out. It's one of those things in life. Like for me, it happened the other day, something that got me like really, really upset. It's, and I know I mentioned it briefly on a previous show with Beardy. It was at the dentist, that I didn't get to go to. And I went to go for my appointment, and it was like this whole big hassle of getting in there, because they were really, really anal about the COVID protection and everything like that.
Sure.
So they were trying to charge me some ridiculous extra fee on top of like everything else, and it was very, very shady, like the way they were doing it. And and it wasn't expected. It wasn't like, you know, warned about, like, you know, it was just out of nowhere. So so I was like I'm not comfortable paying that, because, you know, I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't know I had to pay anything extra on top of whatever, and all that. And like it started going into a conversation where the lady got defensive. And she was like, well, you know, the office has been struggling a lot, and it's been really hard here, because all of our staff has been, you know, they've been gone, and it's just me and the doctor now. And we've had people that have like left because of COVID, and some have left because of cancer. And it's just something that it's just been hitting us pretty hard. So we're trying to take it day by day and do whatever. Like, you know, and here I am standing there like, you know, somebody who just had surgery for cancer. And I know from, you know, that experience, it's not something that you would throw in somebody's face like that. You know,
absolutely. Right. Yeah. Right.
You don't go, if you're having an argument about paying something, you don't go throwing in their face, well, you know, we've been dealing with this and blah, 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 cancer. You know, there's no reason to bring that up. And it like, it really pissed me off. And, you know, and it's like on the paperwork that I had just filled out, I put on there, because it said that, have you had any, like, you know, previous things that going on that are new for your medical history? It's like, yeah, I just had cancer and I just had the surgery and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. So it's in the paperwork, but I didn't tell her anything. You know, I was just, you know what? Have a nice day. Tell the doctor I said thank you. And I left. And, you know, I just, you know, one of those things, like, I, you know, in the back of my mind, I was like, I hope she reads it and feels like shit, because that it was pretty messed up that she went and, like, you know, pulled it out as if, like, you know, it was like her ace up her sleeve, like, to make me feel bad, to be like, oh, okay, so here, you know. And it's one of those things, like, you know, you don't know what other people are going through. You said,
never know what they're going through. You never, and to assume, just because, like, the internet is tricky about this too, because the internet is notorious for only showing you the good stuff, because most of us don't always feel comfortable opening a door into our darkness. Like, I will do it under the right conditions and with the right people, but I don't always want to tweet it. I don't want it to get thrown back in my face. You know, no one does. So we often put a happiness filter over the content that we place online. And so people forget when they see that, like, they still struggle. People who seem joyous still struggle. And some of the stuff that they struggle with is dark and hard. And assuming that they're not, and assuming that you have it worse, making the assumption that there's like a need to have a competition. You're allowed to have your struggles and I'm allowed to have mine, and we can hear each other and empathize for each other without having to make it about which one of us has it worse. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The truth of it is, it does not matter who has it worse. It matters that we can meet each other in a place and try to help. Hear. Just to hear what someone else is going through is often enough. So.
Yep. That's the way a lot of us should be trying to see things, you know. And it's beyond truth for that.
I've returned. Back.
Welcome back.
Sorry about that.
So like I was gonna say, it's true. Like, it's true about the whole thing with what you said. All right, I got you. It's back now. Okay, I cleared the fog. It's true about the people showing just, like, you know, the positiveness, because it's something that I do on the regular.
Sure.
Like,
we all do that, right? We all put the Instagram pictures of the things that are cool, right?
Exactly. And it's like, it's mostly like the ones with the kids. You know, it's like you see pictures of my kids happy, smiling, or into something, like, you know, having fun doing something or whatever. And it's like the minutes and seconds surrounding that one picture are usually like the most ridiculous, chaotic mess that you've ever seen, like MTV type show things, you know. I think anyone who has kids knows that it's like a series of little roller coaster bumps all day, right? Yes.
But people who don't have kids, this is not a slight against them, for the most part, or who have never cared for kids in any sort of capacity, just don't understand how whiplashy having children is. Like, 1 minute they're great, and the next minute it's a fight about something. Yeah. And I think that they all think, like, and we perpetuate this slightly because we put out the positive stuff on social media, because that's what you do with your children. You don't put down their breakdowns out on social media. But people see it and they're like, oh, this looks like having kids is a blast. And I'm like, yeah. It's also the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yes.
Yeah. Holy crap. Is it hard every day?
I had to take away the middleist. I had to take away his Switch today. And yeah, that turned into something. And it was a big something. And he did not agree, to say the least. And
as they are wont to do.
Yeah. And yeah, it just went on, because I stuck to my guns and I was like, nope, sorry. And yeah, so, and then it got, you know, it eventually quieted down, and now, you know, putting him to bed, it's like he was in bed, and then he got up, he was like, Daddy, hug goodnight, kiss me goodnight. And it's like, oh, okay. You know, and it's like he's living true to his nickname, Sour Patch. It's like, you know, the Sour Patch Kids, the commercials. It's like they'll do something to terrorize you and destroy your house, and then the next second they're like hugging you and all that. So.
Dude, like I said, whiplash. My youngest, I don't know where this came from, but her nickname is Nugget. And I say to her often, you know, you're a spicy nugget. You're not like a bland, boring nugget. You spicy. And she thinks that's hilarious, but it's true, because she has so much personality. Mm-hmm. My son, my oldest, is very much like afraid to disappoint people and a rule follower. He reminds me so much of myself that I speak to him the way I wish someone had spoken to me. Yeah. You know, like, I warn him about the inside of his own head a lot, and not letting the demon, like, not beating himself. Yeah. She will fight you. Mm-hmm. And she's so spicy. And she's 8. So there's these moments where, like, and I've told the story a million times, she will get mad at me, tell me she hates me, slam her bedroom door, and then open the door because it didn't slam loud enough and slam it again. She's 8. And I'm like, I will look at my husband. He's like, I don't know what we're going to do when she's 14. I'm like, cry. I'm going to cry. I don't drink anymore. There's nothing else to do except cry. It's funny because like parenting is so weird. It's both the best thing that's ever happened to me and the most difficult, all in one little weird ball. Mm-hmm. People should really write books about this. Yeah, they do. We just all ignore them because we think it'll be fine.
I do. I ignored the crap out of them.
I read the books and I was like, it'll be fine. These people don't know what they're talking about. How hard could this be? Should have listened to them. Holy crap. That's tough.
It's like paying your therapist and not listening to them.
Well, and it's exactly the same thing. It's like, I clearly know me better than you do. And then something happens and I'm like, clearly she's a witch. Do you know what I mean? I've told her that before. I'm like, you must be a sorceress. And she's just like, no. I just think you know better than me. And I like to let that play out. I'm like, oh, good. But it's the same way with parenting. Like, it's also so funny because parenting in a lot of ways, while the arc is the same, the story is different for all of us. Like your struggles with your kids are probably very different than mine. At the end of the day, we're both tired. Mm-hmm. We both feel like we've been on a really crappy roller coaster at Great Adventure. Mm-hmm. Oh, the reasons are different.
Those horrible wooden ones.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Rolling Thunder. Is that the one?
Oh, wait.
I think it is.
The Great American something.
The Great American Scream Machine.
Scream Machine.
Those are both at the Great Adventure right by my house. I grew up, I hate roller coasters. Everyone should know this about me. I cannot stand them. My brain literally starts doing calculations about all the ways that I can die. I can't go on roller coasters. I'm a delight on airplanes too. Just an absolute delight.
Yeah.
But like
on a roller coaster,
my struggles,
I'm always ducking on roller coasters. Like I'm always.
My husband loves roller coasters. I don't understand how we made it work for so many years sometimes when I say some of these things out loud. But like my kid, it's interesting with kids because people give out parenting advice, even other parents to other parents, like unsolicited parenting advice. You don't know me and my children is up there with the stuff that makes me roll my eyes the hardest. Like assuming you know my kid after interacting with me for like 20 minutes just because we both have kids, that's a big leap, Martha. You know? Excuse me, Susan, but ma'am, you know, don't give me parenting advice. They shouldn't eat. No, we're not doing that today. You don't want to do that with me. This is why I told my husband, this is why I'm just going to keep collecting tattoos because maybe those women will just be so afraid they won't speak to me.
Yep, there you go.
That's the goal. Goals.
Intimidation. That's what you got to do.
That's the goal. I used to ride up to PTA meetings on my Harley, walk in with my boots on and my helmet, their jacket, and my "don't F with me" face, and that stopped a lot of the conversations. Now we're just going to keep adding tattoos until it stops the rest.
There you go. See, you got it. You got it all figured out.
I pretend like I have it figured out. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I feel like parenting and kids could be like a totally different show. Like that sounds like fun because it sounds like it sounds like your boy is like the same with my oldest. Like it's very, very, very me. Like the personalities and everything like that. It seems like you're much more level-headed with it, but like me, I tend to like, I guess you could say I'm taking the personality of the Hulk a lot. Like it's
fair enough.
It's just like, you know, sometimes the day would go like, you know, something would happen and then it'll be like, okay, is that what we're really the decision that we're making? And then 2 minutes later, something else would happen and it'll be like, okay, what just happened before? And then the third thing happens like 2 minutes later and it's like, okay, that's it. It's like, it's gone.
You take way longer to lose your patience than me. I don't want it to seem like I'm like this perfectly oh, please. I'm an Italian American woman and there is a stereotype about that for a reason. Okay. Some days I'm patience personified. Some days I'm liquid rage just waiting for somebody to pop a balloon. And I blame hormones. That's what I blame. Sure. Not personality at all. there are certain buttons that my kids know how to push. And they know they're going to make me mad, but they can't stop themselves. And then there are other days where I solve the problems in creative ways. Like, my son gave me a bunch of sass the one day. I don't like it when they dish me like that kind of like irreverence, you know what I mean? Like disrespect. And I was like, I could yell at him. Or I could solve this problem in a creative way. So I waited till he took a shower. I filled a container with ice water and I dumped it on his head while he was in the hot shower. And he screamed so loud that the neighbors probably heard it. And I said to him, are you going to sass me again? And his exact words were, not if you're going to take it that far. And I still see him, like, there was a day a couple of weeks ago and he caught himself. And I looked at him and I'm like, what just went through your head? He's like, I was going to say something that I shouldn't say. And then I remembered the ice water. And then he just walked out of the room.
Man.
And I'm like, every once in a while I have a major win. But the days I'm the mom who the neighbors can hear yelling as they walk by. So, I don't know.
Yep.
It's fine.
Yeah, I gotta try and remember the ice water. See if that one will fly with the wife. See if she approves.
It was genius. I felt so proud of myself. My husband was cackling in the other room. He's like, I'm actually kind of mad. I never thought to do that. I'm like, I can be creative when I need to be.
Yeah, we're that house too. We're like, we don't. It got to the point where we just stop trying to be quiet. It's one of those things that, you know, like I said, it just gets progressively worse throughout the day. And sometimes it starts early in the morning. Sometimes it's the afternoon. Sometimes it's the evening when we're trying to get to bed. Because, like, you know, we say, you know, like we mentioned before, the whole bedtime is a struggle, you know. But yeah, it's like, there was one day I went out to take out the trash or something like that. The neighbors were outside, and something was said about something, and they were like, oh, I'm glad whatever, because, you know, we feel like we're always scared because you hear us screaming over here. And I'm like, are you serious right now? Are you kidding me?
I think we're all so self-conscious about that. It's funny because, like, sometime during the pandemic, I lost my patience with my kids over some such nonsense pretty early on. It was maybe May. It was a day in May. And I was like, why don't we go for a walk? Why don't we get out of this house? And as we're walking through the neighborhood, I heard like at least 2 other houses where I could hear yelling at the curb from inside. And I was like, I feel seen. It's not just me. We all lose our minds. See, this is exactly it. We're all struggling. We don't often see the forest for the trees on our own side either. We think we're the only ones struggling. It's like, no, we're not alone. There's no alone. We're not crazy.
Do you get happy when you hear that? Like, I mean, obviously they're probably going through struggles and it's a terrible thing to say, but, you know, for us, it's like we look at each other, we smile. Look, it's not just us.
It's not just me. I think that it is the very definition of I feel seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know when, like, you see an Instagram caption and you're like, oh God, yes. Yep. It's that. It's not that I'm happy for your struggle. It's just that I'm happy to not be alone in this dark corner that I put myself in, you know? It's weird. And it's like my husband has looked at me and goes, well, at least you're not the only one people can hear in the street. Because he doesn't yell. This is a man who does not raise. If he yells, it's bad. I've heard him yell maybe a half dozen times. Does not raise his voice.
No.
I, on the other hand, 100% do. I'm just loud in general. I'm just loud, you know? I'm loud when I'm excited and I'm loud when I'm angry. So he always thinks it's so funny. He's like, well, at least you're not the only one who can, like, really pull that from the diaphragm. Shut up, Don.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like one of those things, like, you feel like you're the only one, because it's like, it's bad sometimes. Like, it gets bad, like, especially when, like, things are, like, really high and the kids have their attitudes and they have their things going on. And, like, our 10-year-old, he's going on 19, 20 now, you know? Yeah. So he's like up there with his attitude and all that. So it's like, to hear the neighbors, like, saying, like, oh, we're afraid of this. I'm like, listen.
Honey, like, sweetie.
I was like, I was so happy. I was like, look, you just you saying that tells me that you don't hear the crap going on in our house. So, it's
exactly.
It's one of those things. And then like, we're real cool with neighbors across the street. We're always talking or whatever. And she's told us like numerous times too. Like she was like, look, I'm sorry if you hear us screaming over there. It's just like craziness going. It's like, seriously, like we're the last people to apologize for that. It's terrible.
I've never had anyone do that, but if they did, I would probably just cackle and be like, I'm like Carmela from The Sopranos over here. Like I'm loud and I'm not real big. So like, don't worry about it, dude. I'm probably already yelling. I probably don't even hear you. Do the same thing my mother used to do too. I yell to summon my children. There are a million devices in my home.
Yep.
This is a 1,400 square foot house. Okay. If anyone thinks I live in the lap of luxury, 1,400 square feet. I could walk up one flight of stairs to ask my children something, or I could yell loudly from the kitchen and summon them. Guess which one I often choose? Well, I've got this voice and God gave it to me, so we're going to use it. I feel like my mom. I'm 100% in that way, very much like my mother. And it tickles me every time.
Yep. All right. So it was fun. I think we covered a lot.
All the things.
A good range of stuff going on, and it's much appreciated. I'm gonna go and work some magic and editing and all that stuff. So we're gonna end this show here, and we'll continue on, and we'll have another show with you next week. But for this one, if you want to go ahead and pimp out whatever you're doing, so those listening to this know where to find you on a weekly basis, and how to keep in contact with all your positive messages for the days and all that.
Or cat memes. I only have 2 speeds. I'm joking. I have lots of speeds and they're all nonsense. If you want the bulk of my nonsense, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm etdragon. After my favorite Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon.
I was going to ask you where the name came from.
Yeah, it's I love Bruce Lee and I love martial arts, and it was Enter the Dragon is my favorite of those movies. So that's if you ever need to remember my Twitter, it's etdragon. That, and then every week, we put out a podcast called The Xbox Empire, part of the Play Some Video Games network of podcasts. You can follow the show on Twitter, Xbox Empire, or you just follow me and I retweet all of that stuff, and you can find us pretty much anywhere there is a podcast to be found on the internet, because that's how it works now with the kids and their internet machines. I don't know. In my day, we had to put it on a WordPress site or Libsyn. I don't know. Shakes cane that says "in my day" on it. So if you want the easiest answer is etdragon on Twitter. Will get you all of my nonsense content.
There you go. All right. It's been a pleasure, and to say the least, it's been a roller coaster ride this episode. So it's
good one. It's been fun. I don't often get to be quite so candid, so thank you very much for having me and allowing me that. It's been a blast.
That's one thing that I was aiming for, because every time I hear you, you're always talking gaming. You're always talking something entertaining, something fun, and it's like, I want this, this show of mine, I want it to be more people, more personal, and it's like, this is exactly the type of talking that I want to try and do. If we're talking about games, that's cool, that's fine. Yeah, but it's more the opportunities for people that I know to talk more about other things that they don't typically talk about. So I'm glad you were able to take that opportunity and run with it.
It was fantastic, and I appreciate you having me.